Welcome back to the Bold and the Brave podcast, a parent leader podcast, where today my colleague and I will be talking with Diane Silva from Rhode Island. And so, the intent of this podcast is to really highlight and elevate and bring news to you on the leadership work that our parent leaders across the country are doing. And so, we get the pleasure of connecting with Diane, who has a truly dynamic community project that she worked on, which you'll hear about very soon. So I am Janine McMahon. I am the Implementation and Systems Capacity Specialist with the National Parent Leadership Institute. And Carolyn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much, Janine. I'm Carolyn Lee Davis. I'm so excited to be here for this conversation with you all today. Janine and I are both part of the National Parent Leadership Institute, where we get to work with families and partners making change in their communities across the country. One way that we get to do this, one really important way, is through partnership with the Connecticut Commission on Women, Children, Seniors, Equity, and Opportunity in implementing the Parent Leadership Training Institute in communities across the country outside of Connecticut. Janine.
Yeah, and so we'll just get right to the exciting part now. I am so happy to introduce Diane. And what we'll be discussing today is community leadership, accessibility, and the importance of policy change when you're addressing these things. So, Diane, could you introduce yourself to our guests?
Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. As mentioned, my name is Diane Silva. I live in Rhode Island. I have a 18-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old daughter, and also a husband and a dog. And what brought me to PLTI was the opportunity for advocacy and for my voice to be heard, and learning that when I advocate for my own children, I'm advocating for other people's families as well. And my leadership project, the title of my leadership project was Time to Change, Advocating for Adult-Sized Height Adjustable Changing Tables in Rhode Island.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Diane. We are excited to dig in on this, and I am so excited to learn more about your story and your work. Because I'll be honest, this was a topic I got to learn more about through learning about your work. So I'm excited for the chance for this conversation. So I'm wondering if you can just share a little bit with us about what was happening in your life or in your community that brought you to this type of work and this being an area of passion for you.
Yeah, so in 2015, my daughter Ella, at the age of 5, suffered an AVM rupture and a stroke, which has left her total care dependent, a wheelchair. She uses a wheelchair for mobility. She has a G-tube, dystonia, epilepsy, lots of diagnoses. And after her injury, it left me with having to maneuver our world in a very different way. So learning that the world isn't as accessible or isn't as inclusive as it was prior to her injury. So what brought me to PLTI was I was a Rhode Island Lend graduate in 2020, and I started some advocacy work there. And then for 3 years after my daughter's diagnoses waxed and waned with lots of hospital visits and new diagnoses. So we were kind of we've been thrust in this world of medical complexity with no, directions or roadmap. So what I was finding, along this journey is that there's no real place for her to have her brief changed, because one of the things she is incontinent. And we were finding in Rhode Island that there wasn't a place that she could be changed that would be private, dignified, clean, and we are constantly told to change her on the bathroom floor. So if you just think about that for a minute, we as individuals are told not to put our purses on the floor or our backpacks or our diaper bags, but we're constantly being told to put our loved ones on the bathroom floor. And some bathroom floors you don't even want to put your own feet on. So it's time to change.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Diane. I learned about your community project because I had the pleasure of coming to your graduation. And when I heard about what you were working on, I got super excited because I have family members who have special abilities myself. I've worked with clients in the community that have had special abilities. And I'll be truly honest with you, I'd never thought about this concept of adult changing tables, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I got super excited and inspired by the work that you were doing. And I just realized, like, you mentioned this other program that you were going through called, I think it was Lend, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm assuming like that's where some of like this leadership work started. Like, what truly inspired you to continue this leadership learning journey that you were on?
So it had started with, Rhode Island Lend is leadership education for neurodevelopmental disabilities, and that was more of learning from the perspective of the providers and being able to follow providers and see how they're doing their work. And that gave me the opportunity to see the opposite of me being the patient, or my daughter being the patient, and really working with providers to learn about diagnoses, the language they're using with parents, in those types of situations in clinical settings. And then the policy work came later with PLTI, when I really was just starting to find my voice in Lend. And then, I said, like, Ella was back in the hospital for a while, and then kind of coming back to it and saying, like, okay, where and how can I make this really part of my life going forward? Because I think once you find your own voice, and then your voice gets acknowledged by other people, you really find the power of that validation, I think, is important.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. And I think that's so true. And I'm curious. So as you started going through this, can you just share a little bit of what the legislative journey was like for you?
Sure. So as Janine mentioned, our graduation was I was part of the 2024 Rhode Island cohort. It was the first cohort in Rhode Island. Yeah. And I believe I was one of the last people that was interviewed and chosen, because I had other friends that had applied, and I waited and waited and waited, and then I finally got the call. But what PLTI teaches you is that scaffolding of learning and then practice. And I felt like it really just allowed me to have a voice and learn and make mistakes along the way. Yeah, so the legislative, as Janine mentioned, our graduation was in January of 2024. And a few days prior to graduation, I was able to do a news piece about changing spaces. The timing just happened. And when it happens, it's like strike when the iron's hot. So we did the news piece, and then it kind of trickled from there, where people were finding out more and had more questions. So people were contacting me, and then, having the conversation with our representatives and senators, and really just, I think, practicing that pause of really thinking about what it's like for someone else to not being able to have access to a toilet, and having to really plan that out before you leave your house, I think really just strikes a chord with people. And it's one of those things, like, once you see the need, you can't unsee it, if that makes sense. And, it comes from a place of just my own lived experience, having my daughter, and then having elderly parents. And, as our population is aging and anyone can become disabled at any time, it really just, for me, the need to be more vocal was there. And PLTI helped aid that need, because I was using the knowledge from PTLI to bring to testimony, or to testify.
Yeah, so I want to pause right there and ask you a question, because I know people are going to want to know more about how you got that opportunity for the news coverage. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. You said it just happened. It absolutely does not just happen. So I know it's a result of work and connections and all kinds of things. Can you unpack that piece for us a little bit?
Yeah, it doesn't just happen. You're right. So another thing PLTI teaches us is to find our allies and who we can collaborate, cooperate, like who we can make those connections with. And being a mom in this medically fragile, world of disability, I've met a lot of people, and it's like, this person knows this person, and Rhode Island is a small state, and you can connect to people, some people rather easily. So I was able to connect with Kathy Andriozzi, who is the founder of the Tori Lynn Andriozzi Foundation, and she is connected a lot with media coverage, with politicians, with people that are making change, with change makers, as she is a change maker. She is a force. And we met for coffee one day and just, with other friends, and we were just talking, and it was like my brain just started going, and like we're like, oh, this, like, let's put a pin in this, let's think about this. And she was like, how can I help? And when someone offers you that gift of asking how they can help you, it's like, well, telling my story, and her story was similar, of not having a place to change our children when we're out in public. And she also had similar stories of bathroom floors, or the sofas at the at the mall, like in a changing in a a fitting room, because there's no place to go. And if you have someone that has to use the bathroom, they have to use the bathroom. And if we're not having a place to go, we have to make do. So I think that connection I made with Kathy, of having that shared lived experience, really fueled us to make those connections and have those conversations. And she's out in the community much more than I am, but she has making those connections, being like, oh, well, I met someone recently and she talked to someone, and who talked to someone else, and then it was just making those connections. And to me, it seemed like it happened quickly. And it did, but it was because of someone else's prior experience that we were able to do that. So I think learning the news piece and the media piece, and how to use that connection with PLTI, helped me kind of make those connections. So so the piece aired just before graduate. I think it was like the night before graduation. Yeah, the timing of it was pretty key. And then from there, we just kept making the connections, and people were calling and wanting to know more. And when people have that personal experience, the same similar lived experience, I think that's what really makes the change want to happen even more, because it doesn't just touch one family, it touches all of us.
So it sounds like there was a combination of, in PLTI, you learned the value of getting media coverage and how to look into that and prepare for that. And then through this connection of your partner, the opportunity came up for actually getting the coverage. And then can I just hear, so then when you had the coverage, it sounds like you started hearing a lot from people, and so did that bring more advocates to, or more voices to what you were trying to do? It sounds like it prompted. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it definitely brought more voices where, parents and caregivers across the age band were interested in what it meant. I mean, there's also, with the visibility, there's also curiosity for people, but there's also like, the opposite of that. So the opposite of the curiosity, where they're just like, what, why, like, you get those comments where like, well, can't you just stay home? Like, or people don't go out. Like, there's a reason people don't go out. We don't want to see you, or whatever that is. But I think the curiosity for parents was like, oh, like how does that happen? And where can that happen? And how do we make that happen? And also creating conversations with the governor's Council on Disabilities here in Rhode Island. I think that really helped, to like just showing up at those meetings, that seat at the table. Kathy and I joke, like, we don't always have to have a seat at the table when you can have like a folding chair, because you can just show up. And I feel like, we wait for the invitations, and sometimes, you can, if you're able to just show up, which is a lot of moving pieces for people. But if you're showing up and just to listen and to then be heard, I think is important. And that's kind of what happened. Once, like I said, once it was out there, we couldn't take it back. And we didn't want to take it back. We wanted to make people aware, because it's necessary and important for people to live, to be part of their own lives, active participants in their own lives.
This is so exciting, and to me it underscores what we do here at MPLI and with PLTI, because we talk about the importance of lived experienced experts being at the table, helping to influence policy and decisions that will impact others in the community. It's like, how are we making decisions without the people who are going to be directly impacted a part of the solutions, right? And what PLTI does, it really helps to build the capacity of individuals in the community, parents, caretakers, and other people who care about children and families to really understand process, right? Understand how the system works, how change happens. And what you've done is literally take all those learnings from the classroom and literally applied it to what you were doing, and it has made an incredible impact. When I met with you, you mentioned that there was a group across the country, I think they were in different states, that was already doing this work, right? And so you were able to make that contact
Right.
with this group, right? And then bring this work to Rhode Island. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little about that group.
Yeah, so that group is the Changing Spaces campaign, which is now across 27 states.
Nice.
With leaders and co-leaders that are volunteers that want to create awareness for the need for adult-sized, height-adjustable changing tables in public restrooms. And every state is kind of in a different situation because of finances, because of people power, because of so many obstacles and so many victories. So the beauty of that is we come together and the access to each other is always open. So I can call Jamie in Massachusetts and say, hey, I have a question about this, because there is an adult-sized changing table at Fenway, which is really cool because, being in Rhode Island, Boston's not that far away, and knowing that's there, and there's concerts and there's sporting events and all the things that happen in the city, like, to know that's there is great. So that group of people that we can really just lean on, whether it's something personal, because we all have our own stories with our own families and our own loved ones that are touched by the need. But then you can also look in professional and say, how can your experience in your state help me in my state? And that's, or did you make business cards, or do you have a flyer? And the website is so chock full of information that it's all at your fingertips. So it's changingspacescampaign.com, and you can look there, and if your state does, you can see the state leaders that are there. And if you're interested in becoming a leader, you can do that. There's training, and then you have the connection to this wealth of individuals. And then all the information is there as well for what changing tables are available, what it looks like to retrofit, what it looks like for a new build. There's even my dream of the mobile stations, the mobile changing tables that are like trailers that are fully ADA equipped with a handicap restroom, but also have the adult size changing table and the lift system. So yeah, the possibilities are expansive. So it's exciting.
Dream big. I love it.
Yeah, definitely dream big.
So I'm curious, because I feel like you're giving us the building blocks of a successful campaign here, right? So you brought this passion and this personal experience around this issue. You figured out the media coverage piece. You started to build collaborators and advocates and partners in other states to learn from and get to work with. And so and then there was a big success in Rhode Island. So do you want to share with us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, so this past year has been a whirlwind in a really cool, unique way, where, I was in the PLTI space, and then the news happened, and then just making the connections and going to the State House and, having a senator call and be like, hey, I saw you on the news, and this is really something that hits home for me. Can you tell me more about it? How can we meet? And he was Peter Poliano. He was able to look at other states and see what their laws required, and able to, take some of the language to build the law for Rhode Island. So we testified. Kathy and I testified along with some other individuals, and also the Governor's Commission on Disabilities was there, and the letters that came in with the Senate Judiciary Committee, and they did some further investigating, and then they passed it on. They approved it and passed it on to the House. And then our House representative is Tommy Norray, and he supported it and adopted it and brought it to the Senate, where it also passed. And then it passed in the General Assembly. And in June, of this year, it had passed into law. And then we just had a ceremonial signing in October. So, yeah, one thing I've learned with the timeline of things is like, it's not my timeline. It's like the timeline in whatever system it is that works. And,
Yeah.
one of the things you learn as being a parent of a medically fragile kid is that the timeline that you have is not everybody else's. So learning the patience and being able to, um, yeah, rest in that patience and wait is hard, but it's definitely worth it.
So for those who may not know, do you want to just say specifically for this bill and law that got passed, what the law will do in Rhode Island, the difference
Sure.
it'll make? Mhm.
Yeah, so the law is set to take place in 2027. So for new builds in our state, or buildings that want to retrofit for restrooms to include adult size height adjustable changing tables. So and with the Changing Spaces campaign, you can actually go on the website and see the different options, the different price points, and every table is at least 70 inches by 30 inches. So that's kind of the measurement. But then you look at how, that can be in a new building would be almost not a no-brainer. But to me, it's like, okay, we have this space. Let's design this specifically for, our end users, which is everybody, because universal is for everybody. And then with retrofitting, it's not like everything everywhere all at once. So I feel a lot of people that are small businesses are afraid that we might or somebody might building codes might come after them. And that's not the case, because we don't want it. A table wouldn't fit in a mom and pop restaurant kind of situation, right, or a bodega, or any of those places that people visit. So I'm thinking more we have beautiful beaches. So having these restrooms at a beach location, or a mobile unit at a farmer's market, or a art festival, music festival. We have a lot. We have 4 seasons here in Rhode Island, but there's something happening all the time. So it's exciting to know that this expands people's ability to participate in their own lives.
This work is it's so exciting, and all of the wins that you just shared is so inspiring. I'm sure everyone listening, this story might inspire them to do something, to take action. But with action comes a lot of roadblocks and setbacks and different things. So what roadblocks or setbacks did you experience going through this process?
Well, we're still experiencing them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I find the roadblocks are getting the right person to talk to. I think you can, research and look on websites and say, oh, that's the ADA coordinator. That could be the person that, and then you get nothing. And it's like, okay, so maybe that's not the person. But it's all about, making those right connections. And the first answer sometimes is most likely no, because
Yeah.
of money and space and people power. Yeah. But also finding the next person to talk to and asking those questions, I think is important. And like I said, the media coverage kind of, once you're on social media, people will say, the keyboard warriors will say lots of things, and lots of things that are disrespectful and sad and not appropriate. But I feel like if we push that aside and just kind of keep the focus, and then ask again. And if you need to ask a third time, that's okay too. And then, you can either shift your focus to another place and another person, because people want to hear it and they want to do it. And it's just not, always feasible to do everywhere. But we have, definitely bigger places like, say, Fenway or the AMP, or, places where people gather that people with disabilities aren't always able to be there.
Yeah, I love that approach. Every disappointment, every setback is an opportunity for growth and for learning. And you mentioned earlier that, mistakes were made, but you are able to celebrate those things, right? That's something that we learn in PLTI, is how do we take that mistake, learn from it, and improve upon it, right? And do the next thing. What would you say this work, this experience, going through PLTI, going through this process, rolling out your project. What does this teach us about everyday parents and how they could shape systems and policies?
I would just say the power. When I was preparing to speak to you both today, I was thinking about going back to that first day of PLTI and how nervous I was. And it was like, it was a new foray into something different. And would I, you walk into a room of strangers, but I felt them when we were sitting for the first time, and Dioshore and Mary Claire were like, okay, parent leader Diane. And I was like, who's that? And then I was like, oh, they're talking to me. And to put that frame of reference from somebody else, to put that on you, you're like, huh. And really valuing us as individuals for our lived experiences, but also for the commonalities and differences of the people at the table. And I think that was one of the things. I was like, oh, parent leader, like using your own experience. Like you already have this. You have some of the tools and some of the skills, but we're gonna scaffold that and we're gonna build on it, and we're gonna, maybe it's gonna go this way, but we're gonna come back to it, and we're gonna really help you work on it. And they're always available for questions. And then all the individuals in our cohort too have their own. Everybody has their own learning experience, and I felt like it was like such a really unique place to be. And I will say too about PLTI is that 30 minutes were given before. So there's like 30 minutes built into our 3-hour sessions. And that 30 minutes before, we could meet and just show up as we are. Like it was like, not putting our thinking caps on. We just want to we want to check in. Like, how are you doing? How is your family? And do you have, a side Dioshore would say, like, what are the celebrations? What's happening? Like, who can we wish a happy birthday? And I feel like just that human aspect of really checking in with people and knowing that we're not always in the same place. We're not always in the same headspace. We're not always having the same day, I think is really important. And I think that's really a unique thing that I've learned to PLTI that I want to bring forward to other places and spaces.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. PLTI is such an amazing experience, and the learning and dialogue and everything that comes out from session to session is great. But then there's also that social capital, right? That network of your facilitators, your coordinators, your parent leaders in the space, people that you could tap into. Yeah, such an amazing experience. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm curious with that in mind, Diane. I mean, I think just adding to what Janine said, PLTI is always trying to think about how is connection being built between different people and folks who might not know each other yet. So often you'll walk into a PLTI classroom or space, and there may be folks from your community you've never met because they're intentionally from different neighborhoods, different perspectives, different walks of life, right? And so I'm curious, for somebody who has an idea or for somebody who has seen a problem that they want to address, but they're not sure how to move forward, they're not sure if a class is the right thing for them, what would you say to somebody who is, thinking about trying to make change but doesn't know where to get started for their community?
Well, I think if PLTI is something that's offered to you and something that you're aware of and that you can participate in, if you have, the space in your life to do that, I think it's an amazing opportunity to do that. And advocacy work for me, it's funny because I look back and I think, I was advocating back then and I didn't even know it. And, I did AmeriCorps and I was advocating for, it was a librarian and I was advocating for libraries back then. So it's just part of who I am. And I didn't really realize that. And then being called a parent leader was just uncomfortable, but you kind of slip into it. And I feel like if people have an idea and they want to make change, I think there's always someone else to talk about it. Because there's always someone that lived something similar or knows someone that lived something similar or has someone in their family or in their neighborhood or in their social circle that they know of. And if not, if you don't have those people but also see a need, I think you can, research and find that out. And just by talking to people, because we're all human first. And if we take that aspect away, what do we have? So if we're kind of trying to get that, that idea, I say a level playing field, but that's a pipe dream, because everybody has different backgrounds and comes from somewhere. But I think you talk to one person and then that human experience becomes a little more universal.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so curious, and I know our listeners will be so curious. Like, what's next for you? The law's in place. It's going to take effect in 2027. What are you watching in terms of implementation? What else happens in terms of movement in Rhode Island? What comes next for you?
Yeah, I think for the Changing Spaces campaign itself here in Rhode Island is really working on more broader awareness campaign. We're hopefully we're working towards gathering parents to work on a PSA, parents and other family members that, have a loved one that would utilize an adult size changing table to like keep our kids off the floor, creating a hashtag around that, creating social media posts and, the news outlets and really just creating more awareness and attention to the need. And then as momentum grows, hopefully we'll have more awareness about where they are. And with the Changing Spaces campaign, you can see on the map, there's a map that hopefully I think is the idea is to hopefully have an app, so you would be able to see, okay, I'm in Massachusetts, here's where they're located. Or if you're traveling from, I don't know, Rhode Island to Florida, you can map out where those changing tables are. It'll show you the hours, it'll show where it's located and how you can get there. And
So great.
yeah, so I just imagine being able to take Ella wherever she wants to go and not having that barrier of having to, pick up and leave 2 hours later because we have to find a restroom.
Yeah. Yeah, and Diane, I think at one point when we connected, you mentioned this hope and desire to like do some next step work into wheelchair and tables and some other things. Like, tell us a little bit about those desires.
Yeah, I think from my perspective of being a caregiver and with a patient and taking Ella to appointments and like seeing how offices are set up and how hospitals are set up and clinics and making those more accessible for everyone. Finding true lack of wheelchair scales and height adjustable exam tables and also lift systems and ramp systems that really work for everyone, where we're saying like, oh, well, there's only 2 steps to get in. Like, well, that 2 steps makes it impossible for me to get her in. So how do we make that more accessible? Like a portable ramp, or if we're in an office and we need the height adjustable changing table, like how do we make that happen? Is it just going to be one room or is it going to be all rooms? So opening those conversations and having those with practitioners is just as important as having those conversations with people that, make the rules. So
Yeah, and that touches on that equity piece, right? Which is what we teach in PLTI, or we talk about in PLTI, right? Really looking at and assessing and addressing the individual needs of others. So thank you for sharing that so much. You, Diane, have shared so much about your PLTI journey and your advocacy efforts that you've done, and things that you are proud of and should be proud of. What are your hopes for your daughters? Like, what do you hope that they see in this work and in the change that you've helped to create?
oof, that's a big question. Well, I know with both of my daughters have seen me do the work, whether I'm reading or researching or making phone calls. Making phone calls is part of, having a child with medical complexity. I'm constantly on the phone with doctors and pharmacies and all the like. But I think they see me do the work and know that they can too make change. Especially like my 18-year-old now is like the power to be able to vote and to be able to rally and to be able to, find people that need resources and connecting people to those resources. I think, them just know, and they know that my heart is in it, and that passion, and how, what do we say in PLTI? Passion promotes progress.
Oh, passion with purpose.
Practice,
Passion
yeah,
with
purpose. I
Yes.
knew it was another P word, but yeah, I think once they see that, it really gives them the tools to empower themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. We have the Children's Leadership Training Institute as well, and that mirrors our adult curriculum. But even if a site does not have CLTI, which I know Rhode Island doesn't, it's the learning by example, and it's the modeling that you're doing for your children in the home, right? And they get to replicate that and exercise the same level of advocacy. So thank you so much, Diane, for sharing that.
Of course.
So we want to just make things a little bit lighter, like on the lighter side. And we wanted to ask you just, a few questions around what do you do for for the holidays? Like what are some things that you do to prepare for the holidays?
Well, one of the things we love to do is to decorate. So my husband and the girls do the outside, and then we all do the inside. So while they're decorating the outside with the lights and everything, I'm kind of getting things together inside so we can we have to look at all the ornaments, whether we put them all up or not, but we have to look at all of them. And another great tradition we have with my mom is being able to do Christmas cookies. So we make Christmas cookies with the girls and my niece and my sister, and then we deliver them. So delivering them to the police station and the fire station. Most of the people that we deliver them to are people that have been involved in our journey, that are those healthcare workers and the firefighters and the helpers. So that's a fun piece too, because then they get to see Ella and Chloe, and like can't believe how much time has passed, 10 years. So yeah, it's fun.
I love that.
Yeah, I love all of that too. It's a great way to connect with people, but love baking and being in the kitchen. So that all sounds like things that bring a lot of joy. Curious if there's another thing bringing you joy or making you laugh right now.
Yeah, I think we start Christmas movies early in my house. We've done like Christmas in July. So now we just
really early.
Yeah, really early. Well, that's, the Christmas in July is kind of a fun thing, just to, when it's so hot you can't go outside, you might as well be in the air conditioning watching Christmas movies, eating Christmas cookies. So so Christmas movies and having some laughs and jokes and the inside jokes about Christmas movies, and who doesn't love Home Alone and Elf and all the Christmas Story, those kinds of shows. So that's what's bringing us joy, is those little snippets of laughter, and of course Christmas Vacation too. So yeah, those are all fun movies.
Great.
Home Alone is one of my favorites. We will be watching it on Thanksgiving.
Oh, we love Kevin McAllister.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Exciting. So what's one thing that you're listening to or reading right now?
I'm really liking podcasts. One I listen to is A Good Hang with Amy Poehler. So she's a comedian, and she knows a lot of comedians and has a lot of comedic friends. So it's definitely light and funny. She has some serious topics, but we love Saturday Night Live in my house. Like I said, laughter is the best medicine. So listening to her podcast, reading her books, and kind of having those snippets of joy and laughter.
Yeah. I love it. That's when I listen to too, and it does help bring a joke and some laughter every week. So yeah, I'm with you. So you have talked a lot today about ways that you take action, and I'm curious if there is something that really motivates you to take action when you see a problem or an issue. Is there one thing that you would say really motivates you to action?
Yeah, I think, my own lived experience and my own family definitely motivates me, but also, seeing other families when we spend a lot of time in doctor's offices and in clinics and at the pool, because Ella has aquatherapy once or twice a week. So, seeing those families and seeing how, like, you only see like a little snippet of their dynamic, but also being able to have a business card and reach out and being like, hey, like, do you need help with something? Like, how can I help you? Or do you want to have coffee? Or just having someone to, show someone else that they're not alone, because the disability world can be very isolating. And we spend a lot of time taking our loved ones to appointments and waiting rooms and waiting and waiting. So how do we make those connections while we're waiting, I think is a great place to meet people where they're at.
Thanks. I love that, Diane. I like to coin folks like you, like the connectors, the community connectors. And I love that you made business cards to make sharing your information super easy and accessible. What is one thing that you're taking action in your community right now?
So in our community in Coventry, we have a learning center being built in one of our former schools. So it's going to be a learning center for across the lifespan. So there'll be early childhood experiences. There's going to be healthcare clinics. There's going to be things for seniors. There's a coffee shop for people with disabilities that can actually work there, and a courtyard where you'll be able to enjoy, a hot beverage or a cold beverage, and have some social space too, not only learning, but we learn through being social with other people, and I think those connections, so connecting to people in town and bringing experts in and healthcare workers in that can help people that can't necessarily get to those places, I think is a big piece.
Well, Diane, thank you so much for this conversation. Just want to offer you a lot of gratitude. You have shared your story, your expertise, your personal experience, and it has just been a conversation I really value and have learned a lot about from. So thank you. And just want to offer gratitude to you for your time being with us and for everything that you've shared. I think it will be really educational for others, but also real motivation and inspiration to others who are wanting to make change as well.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you as well, Diane. I am so inspired by the work that you've done. And from the moment I met you, I was like, we need to share this story. We need to share this with our listeners, our partners, our alumni, all of our folks. And so I am so happy we were able to make this time, especially with the holidays upon us and with all the baking and other things that you have to do coming up very soon. Yeah, thank you so much. I am truly inspired by your work, and just sending all of the encouragement to continue doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you and Carlos and the support of the community support. And, we can always lean into each other when we need to. And even if we don't need to, we know that we're there when we do. So I think that's important. So I appreciate your time and energy and work and dedication of everything you're working on. So happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. So, Carolyn, this is our last podcast for the year.
Unbelievable. That is right. Well, we just want to offer gratitude to all of our guests this year, all of our listeners, everyone who's been a part of our podcast community. For others who might be listening for the first time, this podcast is available anywhere you might get your podcast. So please like us and follow us and download the episode, share it with friends and family. But just want to offer a lot of gratitude to those who have listened to us and also joined these conversations. We're always wanting to lift up the very valuable work happening by family and parent leaders in communities, and are grateful for this chance to have conversations like today's. We will be back next year with more episodes, so we look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, our warmest holiday wishes to all.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.